This is our old double doorway from our original entrance. Now we've got our timber frame in and we're ready for insulation. Now even though it's an internal wall, please don't scrimp. You've got to put your insulation in, because while I'm sitting out here trying to enjoy the fire, I don't want to hear what's going on in that ensuite. Not to mention the fact that it just gives the whole house a real cosy and beautifully acoustic feeling. But first of all, I just want to tidy up the edges of my plaster. So this is old, what they call horsehair plaster, but it's just fiberglass with plaster over it. So I want to get rid of any of these bits of fur, because that's going to come straight out in anything I do. Now the other thing I'm trying to do is what's called V'ing out. So I'm just doing a nice V joint down there. Just gives it something for my spooge to go into and gives it a nice strong joint. And like anything DIY, all in the preparation. The more work I put in now, the better the result. All right, that's pretty good. Now with these, they're great because they're not itchy like the old pink bats and gold bats and stuff like that. And you get a heap in a bag, as you can see. You just press them in. When you get to a noggin, just slice away. Now you don't throw these bits away, because all we're trying to do is fill in the holes. If you have a gap, you sort of waste everything else you're trying to achieve. Now you probably wouldn't believe it, but these are actually made for recycled bottles. And this process really is as easy as it looks. Now ready to put a lid on it and get some plaster on the walls. 1700. I'm going to measure on my sheet and then make a mark. To get a nice neat cut on your plaster, cut through one side of paper. Then turn the sheet around and then use your knee to break the plaster inside. And then you can cut up the back. You always want to use special plaster glue while you're hanging your sheets. But don't use too much, because you want it to sit nice and flat against your studs. Now if you've measured correctly, your plaster should just fit straight in and ready to be screwed off. Now I screw top and bottom, every stud, and in the middle. Now when I'm fixing my screws off, I don't want to break the outer layer of paper. This is where all the strength comes from. So if I push in here, go in, see it just starts to get a little bit of a dimple, but not quite through. If you want to cut your sheets long ways, you can lay them on the ground and use a straight edge. But if you've got a bit more experience, you can hook it onto the tape and run your knife along with the guide of your finger. All right, so on all our joints, I'm going to use this mesh tape. So it's not too bad on the new stuff, but on these old joints between the old and the new, that's going to move differently. So I want to have something in there just to take that strength so the plaster doesn't crack. Our mesh reinforcement tape is just like the reinforcement you find in concrete. It allows the plaster to push through the middle and then hold the two surfaces together. And if there's any movements, it won't crack. Okay, now we're ready for our stop. Now this is great stuff because it's all pre-mixed. And we're just going to work it into our joint like that. Want to fill up that big V joint that we had out before. So sort of go along, push it in, and then drag it through. And this first coat, all we're doing is filling that little hole in there. Okay, that's our first stopping coat on our plaster done. Now it gives you an idea of what goes into a wall, from knocking one down, to building the timber frame, to installing the insulation, the plaster, and finally, the top coats. And now all that's left, 2 more coats, and we'll give it a paint and this wall will be finished.